As of right now, there's not a lot of good news, and there's very little great news. But according to many experts, they're saying the statement that was given last night, the news that has come out just this morning, this is considered really good news because this could prevent more loss of life. Right now, we know there's a lot of issues worldwide. There's threats against the United States, against our people, against our troops, and our military bases. But what was stated last night and the news that has come out, this is big news. So I want to break down what's going on. All I ask is if you can spend just 2 seconds and you enjoy these daily updates, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that like button, and let's begin. So first off, what would we consider good news? Well, what I would consider good news is when people are not losing their life. When people are able to afford food and medications in their homes. I'd consider that good news. I'd consider not spending so much money good news. I'd consider inflation coming down good news. But the one thing that is considered good news today, which is going to prevent many people from losing their life, is what was stated just recently. Look at this. So an Iran Supreme Leader, Khamenei or something, told Hamas chief Iran will not directly enter the war. This is according to the reports. Now, this is considered really good news on multiple fronts. Number one, for Israel, this is considered good news because if they can defeat Hamas and Israel is not going to directly jump into the fight, then they could be back to normal very soon. This is also considered really good news for us here in the United States because one of our biggest worries recently has been if Iran decided to really expand this war, to jump in themselves, because that would create a very big conflict in the Middle East, bigger than what is currently going on between Israel and Gaza. Now, here's what I can tell you, and then we're going to read through this article a little bit. What I can tell you right now is that Iran is going to continue to fund and support Hamas. They're going to continue to support some of these proxies. And the reason for that is because they don't want to get their own hands dirty. But at the same time, they do have an agenda, and they want to achieve that agenda. Now, let's go ahead and read through some of this. It says right here, Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah, reportedly told Hamas chief Ismail earlier this month that since Tehran was not given prior notice of the devastating terror onslaught on October 7th, it would not join the war against Israel. Also says while Iran would prefer political support to Hamas, it would not intervene directly in the fight. That's good news. Also says down here, the report said Hezbollah was also caught off guard by the massacre. Many people were caught off guard. Many people did not realize what was happening or what was going to happen. But according to multiple reports, this was something that nobody expected. Nobody knew this was going to happen. And that's one of the reasons why we are now trying to face this altogether. We're now trying to figure out what is the next step. Well, I want to read you this one last thing. It says, since the conflict began, there have been a string of attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, as well as almost daily exchanges of fire across the Israel-Lebanon border between Hezbollah and the IDF. Now, here's where things get very interesting. If Iran comes out and says, and again, this was reported earlier on this month, we're 16 days into November. This is over a month. Well, this conflict has been going on for over a month. But the reason why this is such a big deal is simply because this takes some of the pressure off the United States. This takes some of the pressure off President Biden. Because the biggest worry that we were facing is, are we going to go to war against Iran? Is Iran going to jump into this fight with Hamas and attack Israel? And if they do, what is the answer from the United States? What is our retaliation going to look like? And this is where some former White House officials were very concerned that President Biden doesn't have it in him to attack Iran. And so when we actually performed multiple airstrikes in Syria, this was interesting. This was somewhat shocking to many people because most people didn't realize or think President Biden had it in him. Now, I want to show you one other thing. It's actually from today. It's actually from CBS News. It says former U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper says defeating Hamas means dealing with Iran once and for all. Now, here's what they're talking about. Okay, and I'm going to read this statement from him. It says to ultimately defeat Hamas in the extent that we understand it in military terms, you have to prevent their ability to reconstitute their military forces. To do that, that means you have to deal with Iran once and for all. You have to cut off the supply of arms and money and other support. And that's the bigger issue that we're not facing. Okay, so the fact that Iran is not going to jump into this fight against Israel with Hamas is one good thing. But here's the other problem. And according to the former U.S. Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, he says that we have to stop Hamas's ability to reconstitute their military forces. We cannot allow them to go and rebuild. Once we beat them, we have to pretty much cut the head off the snake. That would be Iran. But how do we do that? Talked about this the other day, where the United States I'm not getting to all the details here, but the United States is now allowing Iraq to go and purchase energy from Iran. And so they just did another 120-day 120-day contract. They can do it again. But this is pretty much to get them through the winter. Now, the reason for this is because the United States didn't want to put Iraq under pressure to have to go and get energy from somewhere else, which would cause additional inflation. And so, in order to help Iraq, we're allowing Iraq to buy energy through Iran, which that money that's going to Iran could then be pretty much swapped out for other currencies, and then they can go and buy things that are not sanctioned. So, in a sense, the United States is continuing to support Iran. Now, I'm not going to come on here and tell you that we have all the answers. Obviously, we don't. But the one thing I can tell you is that a lot of very important people are now saying that Iran saying that they will not jump into this fight directly is very good news for us here in the United States. So, does this mean we're going to see an attack on U.S. soil? Hopefully not. Does this mean we're going to see a cyber attack? Hopefully not. Does this mean we're going to continue to see attacks on U.S. troops and military bases abroad? Hopefully not, but we'll find out. That is what we know as of right now. But again, as always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. All I ask is if you can do two things. First, hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video. Also, click that subscribe button and tick the notification bell so you never miss an update. But again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.